So, it's been a long time coming. Ever since Jon and Dave really stepped on board for the Star Wars franchise, it was only a matter of time before Disney really wanted to test the waters and do things differently and to see exactly where things would go for the Star Wars franchise specifically. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and without wasting too much of your time, let's get right into the start of this video. Now, we know that Disney and Lucasfilm are experimenting with different techniques, different writers, different creators coming on board, and there is something specific that I think a lot of fans are going to come to either be very skeptical about or in full support over this. Now, at first, it may come across as sounding like that this is something that is being done personally to Jon and Dave, but it's actually quite the opposite, and it has a lot more to do with diversifying the amount of writers and creators coming on board of the Star Wars franchise. They want to expand to have more talent on board over at Lucasfilm. Now, with that being said, there is a full-fledged plan to split up both Jon and Dave that is now going into effect by Disney, and how it has a lot to do with specific factors. We're going to be covering every single piece about this and the common misconceptions about the whole Jon and Dave scenario, about them going their separate ways essentially. Now, on top of this, with both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni as a working team now for multiple years since, well, with of course Mando Season 1, in the Star Wars franchise and the Star Wars universe. However, one plan that will go into effect once Mandalorian Season 4 is done filming and done being edited and over with is that both Jon and Dave will be splitting apart from each other as a team, as creators, but not in the way that fans would come to think at first. The main reason why Disney and Lucasfilm have a concrete plan to split both Jon and Dave apart to work independently is that they have a couple of projects in the pipeline after Mando 4 that are going to be catered to different techniques of world building and script writing. Some of course, each catered for Jon Favreau's tastes, and others of which directed at Filoni's writing style. Now, working in motion with this is the introduction of other experienced writers coming on board to work with Favreau and Filoni separately to fulfill different styles of shows to create a small break for Jon and Dave working together directly as a team. Now, again, this has nothing to do with them wanting to split them apart permanently. They just want to create a break after Mando Season 4 for Jon and Dave to split apart, work with different creators. By the way, Dave Filoni is going to begin working with Tony Gilroy as a co-writer for a couple of projects, while Jon Favreau will be working with other creators, other writers, that will be labeled as co-writers for other Star Wars shows. Now, this does not mean that they will not be working on the Dave Filoni-centered film. That is still a go. This is strictly related to the TV shows, alright? Let's just be clear about that. Now, on top of this, alright, this is of course, it has nothing to do with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau either splitting apart because of Kathleen Kennedy, or Filoni siding with Kennedy's loyals. That's not the actual turn of events that are happening, and it's a common misconception right now over at Lucasfilm, and that this plan is to strictly broaden Disney's horizons with different creators to test the waters to see how both Jon and Dave work independently with different directors and co-writers to create different Star Wars shows. Now, as far as Ahsoka Season 2 and Mando 4 go, those two projects Jon and Dave are still working together on, and it's something that, they will be, working together on to this day. It's everything that comes after that momentarily for about a year or two that they will be splitting apart, working with different creators to kind of just see where things can go, whether it's going to improve or kind of just stabilize, different writers to come on board. And a lot of this has to do with Disney's plan to bring on other main writers to join Star Wars. By the way, one of which is going to be Tony Gilroy, who had a lot of success, by the way, with Star Wars Andor. I know a lot of fans say that it's a boring show. Other fans fully love it and support it. But Tony Gilroy, you gotta not, forget here that he is the guy that made Rogue One possible. And I believe, under Disney's wing, Rogue One is probably their most successful film. As far as the cinematics go, the story flow goes, how it's paced, how there's really no, nonsense thrown into the film at all. It's just a real fun, entertaining movie that just feels right. And they really nailed it and knocked it out of the park with that one. And so they want to have Tony Gilroy working closely with Dave Filoni on numerous projects, and they want other creators working with Jon Favreau on other projects as well. This is just like I said before, to test the waters. It's nothing personal. It's not that they believe that Jon and Dave are doing a terrible job together. It's just strictly that they want to broaden their horizons of getting more creators on board to work with others like Jon and Dave. Now, on top of this, so far, Jon and Dave will still be working together on the Dave Filoni-centered film that takes place in the New Republic era. However, some shows now, Jon and Dave will be splitting apart after Mando 4, one of which is said to be Project Bluepoint, a series that will involve Tony Gilroy and Dave Filoni as writers, focusing on space battles strictly. Jon Favreau, as of now, is not involved with that project just yet, which is a telltale sign that this plan by Disney is moving ahead. Now again, like I say, this is something that I think some fans may take the wrong way, that, Jon and Dave have some kind of beef with each other or some kind of problems. That's not the case at all. Dave Filoni is not siding with Kathleen Kennedy's loyals or anything like that. That is reportedly the common misconception over at Lucasfilm. But what's really happening is, like I said before, Jon and Dave are just working with other writers because a lot more writers are coming on board to actually handle and save the Star Wars universe. Jon and Dave are having a tough time taking on this whole workload of Star Wars shows and movies now, so to speak, that Disney had no other choice but to bring on other writers. And by bringing on other writers, they want Jon and Dave to supervise themselves as co-writers. So that's why they're going to be working separately, is that there's going to be other writers like Tony Gilroy coming on board as a prime example. There's been a lot of reports out there that James Cameron might very well come on board as a co-writer for one of the upcoming Star Wars projects. So it's stuff like that where they want to just broaden the overall team of writers coming on board of Star Wars shows specifically. Now, the thing about this that I think might be a good thing is that this is going to give fans the opportunity to see a wide range of movies and shows being worked on in a quality-driven manner. Quality control. This is basically Disney's way of quality control, because they know that Jon and Dave cannot handle the weight. It's so much workload that they might get worked to the point where scripts might not be well written or stories might not be well brainstormed, and so they want to give them space for a little while at least. Once they figure out who the writers are, who's specifically going to work with who for a while, and then get that all pretty much settled. So anyways, guys, I would really like to hear what you all have to say about this whole scenario and situation that's happening over at Disney to expand Star Wars as much as possible. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.